So my wild card is actually Chris Nolan's first movie called
Mhm.
Following from 1998. The IMDb plot summary: a young writer who follows strangers for material meets a thief who takes him under his wing. And this is written and directed by Chris Nolan and stars Jeremy Theobald, Alex Haw, and Lucy Russell. This is definitely an indie film, all black and white in 4:3. I saw this for the first time probably I don't think it was right after I saw Memento. I think it was probably after Batman Begins that I was like, okay, this guy is incredible. I got to go and find his earlier work. And I remembered liking the film at the time, and I think it's becomes more fascinating. And this is why I put this in my wild card over the years of just seeing how much of Nolan is in this film and how he is. Yes, his scale has changed and he's better executing these ideas. But again, you have the nonlinear narrative. You have the themes of guilt that go through this film too. It's like everything is there. The messing with time is a big factor of this. And this even the score, for some weird reason, this time I was watching this, like this sort of has Inception type of sort of very
Yep.
tonal, synth kind of sounds to it that is just interesting. And maybe that, Nolan likes this type of thing. And that's why, even when he collaborated with Zimmer, that's what he wanted in Inception. But it feels like everything is here, but not yet fully realized to the extent that it is. So it's just fascinating to go back and watch this movie, which I think does work as a great sort of tight little noir film. I think it's like 70 minutes too. It's not even really that long. He shot it without even permits, sort of like on the street with a 16 millimeter camera, a very low budget, just as like a calling card movie. And I still think it just works really well, and his genius shines through even in this level of filmmaking. So what are your thoughts on Following?
Yeah, I'd never seen it before. I always wanted to see it, so it's a good excuse to see it. I kind of love this movie. Of course, to your point, all the trappings of a Nolan movie with the time and all of that is there. But as a younger filmmaker's black and white short movie that can often be very, very pretentious and just hollow,
Hmm.
and if you squint your eyes, maybe there's a little bit of that here too, understandably, because you're just shutting out the gate. But I think this
Right.
movie works and it has a lot of depth to it. The performances are great. And kind of what I was saying with Memento, I think here again, more so than that, it feels very intimate. It feels
Hmm.
very handheld. It's very internal, kind of what we see once again back in Oppenheimer. So it's sort of interesting to really chart his whole arc from the following to Oppenheimer. Because in again, like I was saying earlier, that Oppenheimer and Prestige are similar in like a dorky sort of way.
Hmm.
This to me sort of felt like the true parallel of the following and Oppenheimer kind of being these internal heady movies that are very focused on specific people and what is going on through their minds and the actions they take. I kind of loved it. I want to watch it again. The moment I finished it, I wanted to watch it again. And
Mm.
that's sort of the power that I felt from this movie. And I guess as we are ending our lists here, which we probably haven't mentioned, but it's obvious, is that another important thing that makes, I think, a director like a super director, or certainly if you have this tool in your toolkit, is the ability to work with movie stars
Hmm.
and get what movie stars have to offer. And sometimes in the process, even make movie stars. And you see that throughout his entire career. Of course, he worked with the top stars across the board, which has helped him to mount these movies, get the kind of financing, get the kind of butts and seats. But even in this small movie, I don't know whatever happened to this actor who plays the lead here, but
Mm.
it's a movie star performance, you
Hmm.
know? Like you sort of watch this guy and you're like, oh, this guy's going to go places. And I don't know what really happened to his career. So it's kind of fun to see that Nolan had that ability to kind of tap into these. I mean, he has a type for sure. His
Hmm.
men are sort of
Oh yeah.
angular,
Yeah, they look like
sort
him.
of
We can just say
lean, exactly,
it.
handsome, masculine in a very sort of classical way,
Yeah.
and kind of broken and brutish. That theme has carried on. And you're right, maybe he sees himself in them.
Yeah, he
Um,
dresses them like him,
yeah,
like Leo has the same haircut as him in Inception,
exactly.
and they have the scarves and Tenet with the Pattison. But anyway, we don't need to psychoanalyze them more, but
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. Kind of fun though, actually.
yeah, no,
So
it
yeah.
is fun. But I think that's a really good point that like he is able to create. I mean, even looking at Cillian Murphy, right? He was worked with him starting in Batman Begins and worked with him several times over the years, and now he like helped create his career. and
Yeah.
now has given him an Oscar and let him, they know each other so well and they've worked with each other so long. He's able to trust him in delivering what he did in Oppenheimer. And I think that is something you have to have, like working actors that you like know and trust, but then also be able to plug in a Leo, plug in a McConaughey, and have
Yeah.
them work so well. And they do. Like he is able to do that.
Yeah. No, this was really fun to kind of go through his whole career, and it doesn't surprise me and or shock me, but it's amazing to chart out to see how his arc has kind of gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. And in a way, it's kind of sad when I think about this because I think it's great to see like following that everything's there. And then he's given Mementos like a small kind of hit. And then he works with Pacino in, Insomnia, but then he gets an IP and then he's
Yeah.
still good to his original thing. And he takes a while for him to get the $1 billion Dark Knight. Right? It's like several films into his career, and now he has the name and he's the big star. And nowadays, I just feel like they're not going to give the Nolans that time of like, okay, try this. Here's a smaller budget thing. Yeah, you're working with Pacino, but it's still not a big budget. It's a remake of, a
Right.
Norwegian film or what have you. And okay, we'll give you Batman, but it's not going to be like Batman was not doing well at the time. Like this is after, the Batman and Robin thing. So they let him kind of get to the point that he is today. And I just think now it's like, unless you come out of the gate with the Dark Knight or the Inception, they're going to push you aside or they'll give you the
Yeah.
keys to some established IP like a Fast and the Furious. You work within this, but you can't go out of it and then become, great your Inception or your Tenet or your Interstellar. It's just kind of sad. I'd like to think I'm wrong and that there is still space for careers to develop like this, but he needed that time. He couldn't have
Yeah.
made Dark Knight on this first movie. He just, and he'll admit to that. It's like
Yeah.
but the bones were all there, but it just needed
Mm-hmm.
time. He needed time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think nowadays we don't give directors the time that
No.
they, or the actors too, but I think it really falls
Yeah.
more on the director side. The studios just kind of took. I mean, maybe this is part of also the Marvel effect as well, where
Definitely
those
is.
movies
It
are run
is
by the
this.
producer, not the director,
Right.
so they don't really care who the director is.
Yeah. I'm hopeful. I think after this past year and the fact that the Marvel machine is kind of where it's at, sort of feel like we are at the beginning of a new chapter.
Hmm.
And I think people are seeing that originality, original voices, and doing things in an interesting way, big or small, is rewarded. And people want to see that. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll try to remain hopeful. Hi there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I review a new release and then discuss 6 other movies made by that film's actor or director and how they shaped us. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.